What is GIS data? In today's tutorial, I want to explain GIS data in details to you. GIS data is a collection of facts, statistics, or measurements represented in a structure or unstructured form. In the context of GIS, data typically refer to spatial or geographic information. So in summary, data is a raw measurement from which valuable information can be extracted. So in GIS, we have about 3 types of data. We have spatial data, which is data that is tied to a particular location. Number 2, we have attribute data, which is data that tells us the characteristics of GIS data. And number 3, we have what we call metadata. Metadata is more information about a data. Now let's take it one by one. The number 1, spatial data. Spatial data can be a vector data which can represent points and is usually denoted by X and Y. Permit me to use mouse. Just like this. This is a point data represented by X and Y. And secondly, a vector data can also be a line or polyline data, just like this, a line. And a line is 2 or more points connected together, just as it is on the screen. So this is a line and it's a vector data. A polyline is series of points connected together that has vertices, but they are not enclosed. Then it can also be a polygon data. A polygon data is series of points connected together to form an enclosure, just like this. Series of points joined together to form an enclosure. So this is spatial data. Then spatial data can also be a raster or grid data. So in this case, the data is represented by grid cells. It can also be in form of images or pictures. And spatial data can also be represented by triangular irregular network. And of course, it can also be a terrain dataset, which is built from LiDAR or other point cloud. An example of that is our digital elevation model. Then number 2 type of data in GIS is attribute data. And attribute data, they are not spatial. However, they tell us the characteristics of spatial data, and they are usually connected by tables to points or lines or polygon. In this very picture, you can see an example of attribute data. So the layer we are considering here is points and is telecommunication mast locations represented by these points in various neighborhoods. Now, opening the attribute table of the data, we can see more information about the characteristics of this spatial data. Now, the points are represented by latitude and longitude. However, we have more information about characteristics of this point data. So, more information like the name of the neighborhood, which is represented here, then the ownership, the distance from residential building, and the type of building, the code given to this mast, and the address. All these informations, they are attribute data because they tell us about the characteristics of the spatial data. So, but they are not spatial in themselves, but they tell us more information about spatial data. So this is what we call attribute data. Then attribute data can also, for example, when you have geological map, we have a map representing geology of an area. So that geologic map representing a rock unit is spatial data, but more information provided about the rock unit. For example, we have the age, we have the lithology, we have the percentage of mineral in the rock. All these are attribute data. In fact, you can even have the area coverage of the rock. So all those information, they are attributes. And one of the important use of attribute data is that attribute data can be used to represent the phenomenon or the feature. For example, you may want to represent the rock and group them together, that all those rock units that has the same age should be grouped together, or all the rock that has a range of mineral contents should be grouped together and be represented by a single color. So this is one of the use of attribute data. Then number 3 type of data in GIS is what we call metadata. A metadata is just simply means more information about the data, or data about the data. So what that means is that when you collect your data, the more data that tell us about the data is what we call good data, and they play a crucial role in the effective use and management of geographic information within GIS. Now, metadata can contain information about the scale, the accuracy, the date the data was collected, the projection, the data source, how the data was collected, the standard use, etc. This metadata tell us more about the data. All these and many more are example of metadata. In conclusion, GIS data are data that are tied or has a specific location, and they are grouped into spatial data, attribute data, and metadata. So in the next class, we are going to treat about the sources of GIS data. Thank you for watching.